Hey, here's something for you that I find really, really interesting. One of the things I've noticed lately, there's two brands that have really jumped out to me, two brands from my youth that have now become really popular again. And one of them is Fila, right? You know Fila, the brand of clothing, Fila. And everyone's
Okay.
walking around now in their Fila slippers, which are not cool, but that's not part of the conversation. How does a brand that in the 1980s, the mid 80s, like basically dominated? Like I come from England, everybody in England wanted these Fila ankle high boots, right? Everybody, and then like you didn't see Fila at the end of the 90s and 2000, like it was, but now they're back again, right? And the other brand that's done the same is Wrangler, right? Wrangler, were very important jeans, and then no one heard about them unless you were like some hick farmer, and now they're back as a mainstream brand. How does, like, I just want you to talk into the kind of legacy you can build with a good brand, and how can a brand span 30 years like that, to be able to resurge itself. And I don't know, the company may have been taken over in those cases. I don't know, it doesn't really matter. But how does a brand go from top of mind and 20 years later top of mind again?
It's interesting. Well, first of all, I actually don't know those two brands that you've mentioned, but what I would estimate is they have been successful in building or reviving a tribe. So people actually find meaning when they associate themselves with the brand. So another example was obviously Apple is obvious example. Obviously, they've dropped the ball these in recent years, but in the early days of Steve Jobs, they've really been able to build a tribe. Everyone they change the color of their headphones. Everyone thinks white headphones are cool. Like another brand would be Harley Davidson. Can you believe people actually tattoo their company logo on their bodies, right? So I think it just comes down to identity, right? So in the framework, in the story brand framework that I talk about, it talks about the character, right? So every story will have a character, right? Jason Bourne, Harry Potter, Luke Skywalker. These are characters of the story, and when you really think about it, this character always has something that he wants, or he wants to become someone else, right? So what I'm trying to say is if a brand is able to insert their products and their brand value and their brand proposition into someone's identity, they're going to win, right? Meaning that when I'm tattooing Harley Davidson's logo on my body, it actually represents me as a Harley Davidson person, right? Same goes to Nike, Adidas, and all these big brands that they're associated with, right? I'm a proud Apple person, and there's an identity indication there. When you build a successful brand, people react to you emotionally, and you play an essential part in the identities of these individuals.
Yeah, love it. Still a bit of a tragedy that you have no idea who those two brands are, Wrangler and Fila, but that's okay. It's all right.
So,
We'll work on that. We'll take you shopping when we catch up with you next.